Welcome in. This is Talking Tide. This is our preview show for Alabama versus South Carolina. Now, preview shows I've done in the past have been a little bit too long, I would say, for preview shows. So I'm going to try and keep this one a little more short, a little more concise, keep it inside of about 20, 25 minutes. We've covered a lot of stuff this week. We've done a lot of videos, put out some good stuff for you guys. So go back and check out anything earlier on the channel if you would like. But welcome in. This is Talking Tide. Bama plays South Carolina this weekend, following up 4 ranked wins in a row. Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, and Vanderbilt, not in any specific order there. But final stint of this 5-game run. It's been a tough one for Bama, and on paper, this one should be the easiest of the bunch, but we're going to get into that. I don't want to speculate on if this will be an easy game or a tough game, but on paper it looks easy, but we have a couple things to talk about that could make it a little bit more difficult for the Tide going forward. Before we get into all that, I would like to say, please, if you are enjoying the channel or you get 20 minutes into this video and you say, you know what, I've enjoyed this, you go back in our catalog of videos and say, you know what, this is pretty good. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. It is greatly appreciated. We're going to go ahead and get straight into it. Like I said, I want to make this show a little more digestible, a little bit quicker and easier for you to digest on your way to work on a Friday morning. Now, I do want to say I had the injury report. We always start off with the injury report. I did have it pulled up but in my show notes, but as I was sitting down to click record, I got a new updated injury list, so I'm actually going to pull it up on my phone, as unprofessional as that is. I am going to pull it up really quick, and we can read off the injury report there because my current one is outdated, and there's actually a few notable injuries that have popped up. So as of the time of recording right now, the notable ones that we've known have been out for a little while: Quay Russaw, John Murray Latham, Caden Jones, and Jeremiah Beeman. Danny Lewis Jr. is also added to that list. And then for doubtful, unfortunately, Latsier Brooks is on that list. That's going to be a pretty big loss for the Tide. And then also questionable is Gino Vandermark, part of that offensive line that gave up 0 snaps against, or give up 0 sacks, rather, against the Tennessee Volunteers. So a couple of tough ones there. Latsier Brooks is the one that stands out the most, I would say. That's a pretty tough loss for Bama. Been a star freshman so far this year. He is listed as doubtful, so we're not guaranteed to not see him this weekend, but I feel like if the game plays out how I expect it to, probably better safe than sorry. But we will see. Notable is Derek Meadows is not on that list. He was out for last week's game because of the concussion suffered against Missouri. But this week he is not on the list, so we very well could see him this upcoming weekend in South Carolina. First things first, let's talk numbers. South Carolina versus Bama. The numbers for South Carolina, there we go, are not great, but they're there. So also shout out Cover Crimson. They do a great podcast, but they also put up this lovely stats chart every week, and it's greatly appreciated. So not stealing their stuff, give them full credit. Go give them a follow and a like. So first things first, we got points per game. Now we'll talk about this in a little bit, but South Carolina, the worst point scoring offense in the SEC. Bama's sitting at 35.1 points per game. South Carolina sitting at 20.1 points per game. Points allowed per game, Bama sitting at 17. South Carolina sitting at 20. So Bama winning in both the categories as far as scoring goes. Yards gained per game, Bama sitting at 422, South Carolina at 297. You're going to see a trend here of bad South Carolina numbers. You're seeing pretty much every one of these categories, Bama's in the green. So that's bodes well for Bama, but we'll talk about some things that may not make this matchup as cut and dry as it may seem. Next up, yards allowed per game, 309 for Bama, giving up 336 for South Carolina, giving up. Passing yards per game, 297 versus 191. Passing yards allowed per game, 154 to 186. All those going in Bama's favor. Rushing yards per game, and we've talked in the past about how poor Alabama's rush game is. They're still winning in this category, 125 to 106. Now, the one category that South Carolina does have the advantage in is rushing yards allowed per game, 154 to 150. That one going South Carolina's way. Turnovers, both gaining 12 turnovers, Bama losing 3. South Carolina losing 8. That's a little bit of a skewed number, but we'll talk about why that's a skewed number and then strength of schedule 2 versus 11. So Bama coming out on top in almost every category as far as stats go. Like I said, a couple of stats in there are a little bit skewed. One thing that doesn't bode well for South Carolina in that fact is they haven't even played their tough part of their schedule yet. 3 out of their next 4 games are going to be against AP Poll top 10s. So they've had a tough run. Like I said, they have the 11th hardest strength of schedule in the country, but it's only going to get harder for them. So those numbers might even lean a little heavier in Bama's direction at the end of the season. Not that really matters at the end of the season, but it's just a point that goes, I don't think that they've seen as bad as those numbers can get at South Carolina, but we will see as the game moves forward. Now, we talked earlier this week, and we talked today, that South Carolina is not good offensively. They're last in scoring in the SEC. They're last in yards per game. They're last in total yards. But one of the things that I always say about every team that plays Bama, no matter how bad they've been, they will always put up their best game for Bama. So we talked about it earlier this week that South Carolina is not good offensively. These stats clearly show that. They're last in total yards. They're last in scoring offense. They're last in yards per game. But you see a team that started at the beginning of the season playoff hopeful, SEC championship hopeful, Heisman hopeful at quarterback, and they've severely underperformed. This has not panned out the way they thought it would, but you look at the team and you look at the talent there and you say, well, why doesn't it work? I think we see a different team come out of South Carolina this next weekend. Like, everybody who plays Bama has them circled on their schedule. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Vanderbilt, South Carolina, LSU, Auburn, FSU. Everybody has Bama circled on their calendar. So every weekend, I feel like we have to show up and expect the other team's best. Now, that doesn't mean we can't beat them. Obviously, we can. But don't go in there and sleepwalk into this game. It's the definition of a trap game for Bama this weekend. You're playing in Columbia, one of the loudest crowds in the country. It's homecoming. It's an afternoon game. It's going to be intense. So this team has got to get up and get ready for that. We've had a tough 5-game stretch. We've beaten 4 ranked teams in a row. This is being the last one before a bye. It's such a game we could sleepwalk into this weekend. But the good thing is everything I've heard out of the camp from Bama this past week has been positive. And it hasn't been positive in the clickbait way. It's not quotes to sell T-shirts kind of thing. It's more of being dedicated to what you're doing, saying, we haven't peaked yet. We haven't hit our best yet. I love what Ty ended up saying was he ended up saying that the quarterback's mantra, the quarterback room mantra this week was prepare like you've never won and play like you've never lost. And when I watched this team play last week and when they played Georgia and Vanderbilt and Missouri, that's what this team felt like. They prepared like they lost. They had just gotten done with week 1. They lost to FSU. They got whooped all up and down that field. But then when I watched them go out and play, look like the best team in the country. They look like they can go with anyone out there. So I think that's the mentality going into this game, and it should be. This is not going to be an easy game. It was one of the games I predicted at the beginning of the season to be a game that really could dictate our season. If we win this game, we're having a really, really good shot to go to the SEC championship game. If we lose it, which at the beginning of the season was a real possibility, I think that's lessened now because of the way South Carolina has been playing. But it doesn't change the fact that they have immense amounts of talent on that team. They're dedicated. They want to go out and win on homecoming, and they want to perform. I mean, they were such a hyped-up team coming into the season. They want to say, you know what, we haven't had our best year, and we're not going to be able to fulfill all the stuff that we wanted to fulfill, but we're still a legitimate team. We're still going to go out, and we're going to prove that. So that's the type of mentality I expect for South Carolina to have, and Bama's got to go out there and equal that mentality. You got to go out there. You got to feel like you're the underdog. You got to feel like you're going into Death Valley or Neyland or Athens, and because that's the type of environment it's going to be. If the other team shows up, they show up. If they don't, they don't. But you have to go and show up and have that mentality of the same mentality we had going into Georgia a couple weeks ago. Same mentality we had going into Neyland a couple years ago. You got to go in there. You got to have that mentality and say, I know on paper we win in every category, but this game is not played on paper. It's played on grass. So whenever we go out there and we step out on the field, you got to feel like you earn every single yard of it. And we've done a fantastic job of that these past couple weeks. Let's go finish it off on week 5, and then we go into a bye week, then we have LSU. So this is a perfect opportunity. The scary thing and the most comparable thing I can think of it as, it's like spring break when you're a kid and you go in there and you sleepwalk through your week of schoolwork and homework and all that kind of stuff because, well, spring break's next week. What can they do? Not send me on spring break? We still got a bye week whether we win or lose against South Carolina. We can just sleepwalk through this week? No. We still got to go out there. We got to perform. We got to have the mentality we've had week in and week out. So I think that's what I expect from this team. Again, I expect a different South Carolina than what we saw, for example, last week against Oklahoma. That was one of the most abysmal performances I've ever seen a college football team put on. So I expect something completely different this upcoming week. Here are a couple of keys to the game. First things first, we'll start with the offense. Got to give Ty time. Got to give Ty time. They did a great job last week of protecting Ty. He had to scramble at times, didn't give up any sacks, though. He did a great job picking that Tennessee defense apart from the pocket. This South Carolina team, again, they're going to be aggressive like Tennessee was last week. They're going to want to bring pressure. Their secondary is actually solid. This is the first week in a long time that we've played a team that has a better run defense than they do pass offense, according to SEC standings. I think in pass offense, South Carolina came in around number 4 in total yards allowed. In rushing yards allowed, they came in, I want to say it was 8th, one below Tennessee, rather. So it's another week where we have to establish a run game and make it balance out with a pass game. So have to give Ty time. Don't want to give up any forced passes, anything like that. No turnovers, no sacks. We've given up 2 turnovers in the form of fumbles from sacks or from pressures in the case of Tennessee game last week. We don't need to give up turnovers. That's how underdogs win games. We know that. So got to give Ty time. You have to establish a run game. Like I said, this South Carolina team is the worst rush defense we've played all year in SEC play. So we have to find a run game. And if we can't find a run game, we got to use extension of the run game, screen passes, quick outs, anything in the flats, stuff like that. But this week I want to see us get a run game going. Last week, Jam Miller was banged up going into practice that week. I think that he was not 100% going into that game. And nobody ever is 100% going into games, but I think he was particularly unprepared for that game, through no fault of his own, but just due to injury and the nature of the injury being a concussion. You got to sit for a allotted amount of time, get healthy, and then you're allowed to go again into practice. But I think that we need to be able to establish a run game in this game. If we don't, I'll be a little bit nervous going forward, win or lose this game. If we can't run against a South Carolina team, I will be a little bit nervous, and we may need to look at some parts and pieces and interchange some stuff in that run offense. Keep the discipline. We've done a fantastic job the past couple of weeks of winning the penalty battle. Did it last week against Tennessee, did it the week before, and did it the week before that. So continue to win the penalty battle. The past couple of weeks, we've done a great job of moving the chains, but every time we get set back, whether it's due to a penalty or a sack or whatever it may be, we end up stalling out. We saw it last week. Zay Horton got a false start against Tennessee. It set us back. We didn't convert. Stuff like that can't happen this week, and it's going to be loud. It's going to be intense. We need to be down. We need to be drilled. We did a great job against Georgia, playing in a hostile environment, got the snap counts right. So we need to do that again this week and not get set behind the chains, because when you do against a South Carolina team, they're going to run at you. They're going to pin their ears back. They're going to run at quarterbacks, and it's just going to make it a lot more difficult for us. And the more penalties you get, every time you get a false start or any type of pre-snap penalty, it gets that crowd more motivated. I want to take that crowd out of the game as quick as possible. If we can take them out by halftime, I'll feel a lot more comfortable than if it takes 3 or into the fourth quarter. Weird things happen in tough away stadiums, so let's silence them as quickly and as efficiently as possible. All right, on to the defense. I'll say this: get pressure to the quarterback. That feels like just something that's on repeat for this team. And last week we did a great job of it. Yanze Pierre got 3 sacks. We got 4 total sacks. Here's a good stat that it leans in our favor. Lenore Sellers has been sacked 25 times this season. Now, to give you context, Ty has been sacked 12, so he's been sacked less than half the times. That offensive line for South Carolina is not good. So we have to be able to establish some pressure. We have to be able to get pressure on Sellers, and we have to convert on sacks because he's a mobile guy. He's tough to bring down. We know in the past Bama has struggled with mobile quarterbacks. And again, I know they're not what we thought they were at the beginning of the season, but you look at a team like Vanderbilt last year, they're not what we thought they or I mean they're Vanderbilt. They're the Vanderbilt we thought they were, and then they went out with a mobile quarterback and was able to draw up some things that could beat us defensively, and we end up losing that game. So we have to be able to contain the quarterback and continue to get pressure. And the great thing about getting pressure is whenever we do it, it has created turnovers as well. We talked about winning the turnover battle. The way underdogs beat good teams is by creating turnovers. So if we go create turnovers in our favor and we steal possessions, we're way ahead of the coin. So that's what we need to do. We need to be able to create pressure. We need to be able to convert on sacks and also contain Sellers. If he goes for 1 or 2 yards and we don't convert a sack, that's fine. We don't need to be overrunning the quarterback and getting past him and then allowing free rush lanes down the field. So I think containing the quarterback and getting sacks is going to be a huge part of this game, like it always is. Like I said, I sound like a broken record when I say stuff like that, but those are the things that help you win football games. Another one is win the turnover battle. That was another big one. Here's the thing with this game. I said it earlier this week on Monday. Alabama hasn't popped yet. We haven't had that game where we play 4 quarters of great football. We may play 2 quarters like we did against Georgia of great offense, great defense, and then in the second half we don't end up scoring in that game. Vanderbilt, we would kind of stop and start the whole way. Against Mizzou, we come out, we stall out in that third quarter, we end up getting a sack, they get back into the game. Tennessee, we end up sleepwalking back out onto the field for the second half. They go down and they score quick. I want to see us play 4 quarters of great football. Here's the thing. The scary thing for everybody else in the country is that we have not done that yet. We have not had the game where we can look at it and say, you know what? We played 4 quarters of fantastic football, defense, offense, special teams, all of it. The closest thing is ULM, and I mean, they're ULM, and we put in our second and third string quarterbacks by the third and fourth quarter. So even then, we didn't play our best ball. This team is much more mature, much more in tune with each other, much more in rhythm. I think that this game specifically could be a pop game. It could be a game where we go out into a tough environment. We go and we say, you know what? We're disciplined. We should win this game. We're going to win this game, and we're going to do it dominantly. Every single quarter, every single facet of the ball. We're going to win the turnover battle, rush game, pass game. We're going to establish a rush game. We're going to win the passing game. We're going to continue to do a great job of protecting Ty. These wide receivers are going to do a great job of still playing good football, even though we lost a guy in Latzia Brooks. We go out and we play every facet of this ball game. That's what this feels like. And at the end of the game, when you look up and say, you know, we played 4 quarters of great football, we wouldn't beat a team that had a ton of potential coming into the season 42-14. Like, we talked about for this run of games saying, you know, if we could go 4-1 for these last 5 games that we played, that'd be a great stat. And then you put your head down and you grind through 1. You put your head down and you grind through 2 and 3 and 4. And now we're at the 5th one. We look up, we're 4-1. We can do that same thing when it comes to quarters. We can go out there, we can grind it out. We can say, you know what, we're going to play great first quarter of football, come out there with our hair on fire and silence this crowd early. Second quarter, we go out there, continue to do so, continue to win the game on every side of the football. The biggest thing I want to see is us coming out of the third quarter and not sleepwalking. The past 2 games, we've come out of the third quarter with the football first, and the other team has scored the first points, 2 touchdowns. So one was given up due to a sack, and then the other one was given up because our offense came out and sleepwalked with our play calling. I don't want to see that this week. I want to see us go, and with the Tennessee game especially, I mean, that crowd was buzzing, man. That pick 6, that crowd was more alive than I've seen it in a long time going into a third quarter. And our offense went out and was kind of the opposite. It sucked a little bit of the air out of the stadium. It came back, obviously, but it sucked a little bit of that air out of the stadium. It was buzzing. We were going. We're like, all right, you know what? We're going to go down the field and just run it down Tennessee's throat. And we didn't do that. So I think in this game, if we go out there, we play a good first half, and then we go out there with our hair on fire in the third quarter and just light it up, empty that stadium with 10 minutes to go in the third quarter, I won't complain one bit. So I think that's what we need to do. We need to go out there. We need to have a pop game because we haven't done it yet. And that's the scariest thing for every other team in the country is we haven't played our best ball. We need to find a run game. We need to Daniel Hill's going to be another great asset for us, I think, as well in this game. Enormous running back. We talked about him earlier this week. Did a good job last week against Tennessee finishing off that game for us. And again, Jay Miller wasn't healthy, so he didn't have his best, but I think Daniel Hill can be a real problem for a lot of teams. That can be a good 1-2 combo. So I just want us to go out there and play the game that we're supposed to play. Play against a nameless, faceless opponent in a tough environment and win the ball game. Not like by a score like we have kind of in previous times and letting teams back into these games. I want to go out there and I want to dominate every facet of the football. That's what I want to see out of this week. This is a team where you look at it and say, you know what? They have skill, they have talent, but they're disorganized. They're not playing up to their potential. This coaching staff is in a disarray. This locker room is not in a good spot. They're banged up. This offensive line is terrible. Let's go out there and take advantage of that. Let's go be the aggressors. For the past couple of weeks, team have wanted to be the aggressors against us. Vandy wants to do it. Mizzou wants to say, you know what, we're the real deal. Tennessee wants to say, you know what, we'll go up there and we'll upset you at home. Hasn't happened yet. But every single one of those, it feels like we are the kind of the defensive player to a point. I want to go in there. I want to attack at South Carolina. I want to go take shots. I want to run it all up and down the field on them. I want to play quick. We do a great job of time of possession, but I want to go out there. I want to hit them hard. I want to hit them fast. And I want to dominate this game. We've had weeks and weeks and weeks of like, ooh, I'm kind of nervous about this game. Ooh, I'm kind of nervous about this game. But this one feels like we can go out there and we can show what this team can really be in SEC play. We've done it against teams like ULM. We've done it against Wisconsin. But in this game, in this environment, we can go out there and we can do it against SEC opponents and we can just tear them up. That's what I want to see. I want to see one of those score lines where you look back and you're like, wow, that was when this team really showed what they can do. And we've done it in the past couple of weeks. But this week, I want to be the week where we stamp our name and say, you know what, we're making SEC championship, we're making playoffs, and we're going to make a run at this thing. That's what I want this week to bring. So that's my hope for the week. I think we can go out there, we can dominate this game, even if we don't play our best ball. But I want us to go out there and play our best ball this week. I think that's all I've got. I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I wanted to keep the show a little more short, a little more concise, a little more digestible on a Friday morning. I appreciate all of you guys. I hope to come back and be able to say, you know what, that was our best game so far. That's what I'm hoping for. So I appreciate all y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit that little like, hit the subscribe button, do all that good stuff. I will see you guys on Monday, and Roll Tide.